morning, everybody. This is Judith. I hope you're listening to Mad Love. Let's get into it. So, I'm sleeping in later these days simply because I just haven't been feeling that great. I am definitely feeling better than I have felt in a while. I realize the culprit now. I had started to take some progesterone to help with the hot flashes. And I'm going to tell you something. I had been talking with ChatGPT and they were like, yeah, that might have something to do with it. Okay, my stomach woes are 1000% caused by the extra progesterone. And while the hot flashes haven't come back as badly, I just have to discontinue it. It makes your stomach. I know it doesn't happen to everyone, because when I finally Googled it yesterday and people were like, oh my God, the bloating, the pain. And I was like, yes. And I couldn't explain it. It was inexplicable because it had nothing to do with food. I wasn't even hardly eating that much. And you know how people say, I don't even eat that much. Like, for real, I was down to one meal a day. I'm still down to one meal a day, which I prefer. But it was like, dude, what is happening? And then this crippling bloating. And by the evening time, it was just like, oh, I don't know what to do. And I noticed it. I don't know what happened. I noticed it earlier in like February, but I wasn't on it yet. But certainly by April, when I started taking it, by May 5th, I remember being like, man, my stomach isn't right. But I was so focused on the hot flashes and trying to get my numbers right. Oh my God, I'm telling you, progesterone is the worst hormone of your period, I think, because that's the one that's elevated and you feel miserable until your period starts, which I don't really remember that much. I'm just looking forward to being past all of this hormonal bullshit. I mean, it's never easy to be a woman. You know, when you're a girl, you have those 10 years or so before your period starts to become a thing. And then you have to manage that for 40, 50 years. And then when you finally think the shit is over, you have all of these horrific side effects, which I know would not exist if men had this. If men well, first of all, if men had to have the babies, we'd live in a population of zero. We'd already be extinct because they would not go through this. And if they did have a hot flash and they did get uncomfortable and they did gain weight and all the bullshit that you go through in menopause, that would have been scienced out of existence already. You know, we'd be visiting uteruses in museums. Guarantee it. So, yeah. Anyway, I finally deduced, like, oh, it's this fucking progesterone. And when I was reading the Reddit thread, what other people were experiencing, I was like, holy shit, that is it. And it's been nice to sleep without the hot flashes or the night sweats, but man, that crippling, painful bloat is something that is almost unruly. It's so painful, and you're just so uncomfortable. Like I said, I'm praying for my deliverance from all of these female hormonal woes. I look forward to a quiet, productive life that has no hormonal issues attached to it. This is fucking annoying. And like I said, if this happened to men, either A, there'd be no more people, or B, we would have solutions. You know, but because this doesn't happen to men, what do they care? You know, all the richest men in the world are out here trying to figure out how to, you know, have sex with underage girls and, you know, put weird shit in our food. You know, thanks, Bill Gates. And I don't know, I was telling one of my friends, she wasn't aware of this, but look up the Bill Gates hearings on the COVID vaccine. The vaccine was very dangerous, and they knew it wasn't right and ready to go. And Biden knew that too. They all knew that. They were all complicit and made a lot of money off of Pfizer and Moderna. And I think I read somewhere that some of the vaccines even had E. coli in them. Now you try to tell me who's trying to kill us and who's not. You know what I mean? Why is it perfectly okay for a chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A to have 100+ ingredients in it? Why is that okay? Why is it okay to drown our food in glyphosate, knowing that it causes cancer? Why is it okay to feed us fake meat, fake oil, because apparently there's not enough olive oil to produce the stuff you're buying that's called olive oil. Some of it's olive oil, some of it's not. Why is everything okay? Why don't people get in trouble? Because for all of this grilling of Bill Gates, he's not going to get in trouble. He's not going to go to prison, which is where he belongs. You know what I mean? Sam Altman basically has to do an IPO for ChatGPT or OpenAI because it's hemorrhaging cash. And they're going to leave us holding the bag, on the stock market. And he's going to walk away with billions of dollars if he should ever choose to walk away. Same with Elon Musk. That company is way overvalued. And he's a trillionaire. And people keep saying he's the first trillionaire. That's not true. That's not true. They don't want to tell you who the first trillionaires are. It's the people behind the play. It's the people that you don't know their names for real. Their last names are Rothschild or they're Rothschild adjacent or they're Rockefeller adjacent or they're all of these names, the Orsini family, all these names that really run things, but you don't know who they are and you don't vote for them. Yeah, those people, they're the first trillionaires. They might even be more than that because they are the genesis of banking. They're the genesis of money. It's crazy. We live in a crazy world and it's almost like people don't want to accept it, but it's true. And you can go down a bunch of rabbit holes. Some of it's on the internet, some of it's not. Some of it you have to read about. But there are people who are working against us. And I think it's finally just reached its apex. Like there's nothing left. America has been divided and conquered. And I'm willing to advance because I read some of these comments on the internet. And I'm willing to say that based off the dead internet theory, which is over 50% of the things you see on the internet aren't really real people. They're bots or trolls or whatever. I'm beginning to think that almost every negative comment probably is not a real person. And so people keep falling for it. I'm beginning to think that manipulation we saw around the 2016 election, they just couldn't hide it anymore. But I think it's probably been real this whole time. Just how can we manipulate people? How can we make people believe in our causes? So it's just like you can just see the manipulation if you really look now. And I don't know what the answers are. I believe it's a time to hunker. I know that other people have said what I just said, which is they're looking for places to hunker down and avoid the chaos that has erupted in most major cities. And I agree with that. I think this progressive prosecution thing was a big part of that plan. Let's destroy the local justice system around every major city. Let's put all these inexperienced novice prosecutors in place who don't know the law, who don't know what to do, and, let them enact these inane policies. St. Louis had 2 of them, and neither one of them knew what they were doing. And, the longer Wesley Bell hangs around, the more you'll start to see that he is not interested in serving the people. He likes the attention. He likes putting on his little suit and walking around and talking to people, but he does not care at all about delivering for the people. He was a highly ineffective prosecutor. I remember when he first got there, and I probably should tell the stories of that. I mean, Wesley was a very scary boss to have because he was so petulant and insecure. And so there's a lot of people who know he's awful, but they will never say anything because A, they think he still has some power and can help them. And B, we just got used to not saying anything. But, he really didn't know what he was doing. And the people he brought with him, they really didn't know what they were doing. And now I look back and I think, oh, this is by design. They wanted to ruin all the major American cities because every major American city had one of these progressives, and they let people out of prison. They didn't, or let people out of the jail. They didn't know how to properly charge things. In our office, many people didn't get charged properly or didn't get charged at all. And people didn't know how endangered they actually were. It wasn't safe at all. And it's like, he was fortunate because he was able to use the very experienced staff. See, people didn't just quit when Wesley got there. So there were a lot of very, very experienced prosecutors that helped him win a lot of cases, win a lot of trials he should win. But, he was so destructive on the other hand, in terms of morale, the way he ran the office, the way it was so chaotic. It was very much like a cage match because he was never there. And even if he was there, he didn't know any of the answers you would need. Excuse me. So yeah, I don't know. And now that I look back, and that was 8 years ago when he won that office, and I think, gosh, that was all on purpose, because that following year, when he got there in 2019, there were whole wings of the county jail empty. And all of those people got out and reoffended and came back in droves in 2019 and 2020. And then he blamed it on COVID, but it was really his ineptitude. And the fact that no one has ever done an in-depth story on this or investigative report is wild. It's just wild. And so using that microcosm, I can look and see across America that was the plan. To hire these people who were naive, who thought they understood that justice needs to look a certain way. And it's like, once you get in there, you stop thinking less about race and more about, okay, there's a kind of person that's going to rape your grandmother. There's a kind of person that's going to, shoot and kill somebody over a dice game. There's a kind of person that's going to molest children, and that particular crime is represented by every background. There are just grown people who want to have sex with children. It's the strangest thing ever. It's disgusting. But to say that that's a racial crime is, you're either incredibly naive or ignorant. And I mean the textbook definition of ignorant. You just don't know. And there are a lot of people out here who just don't know. And we were a part of this giant social experiment that backfired because every major city is still grappling with crime after they had all these progressives who did not understand the law. They didn't understand criminal law. Not all of them, but I know for sure ours didn't. And they looked for ways to not prosecute people because they felt like you should be racially sensitive and feel bad for these black defendants. And it's like, I don't feel bad for any defendant. Especially once you read the real case files and see what some of these people have done and are doing to people, you don't feel sorry for them. And if you cared all that much, why would you try to change their lives at the prosecutorial end? That's the end. You're not helping anybody by that point. If you really cared and you really wanted to change the trajectory of society, you would start when they were little children. And you would stop cutting all the programs. And you would stop getting rid of gym and band. And so you got public schools that can't do anything fun in certain neighborhoods. The most vulnerable neighborhoods that could use the extra attention. They don't have band. They don't have gym. They don't have any kind of extracurriculars. You know, if you're not an athlete, there's nothing there for you. Why would you do that? Why do you cut all the social programs? Why do you cut all the after school programs? Why do you cut out all the summer programs? If you cared, You would start there, not trying to give everybody a progressive prosecutor. That's fucking racist. If you ask me, that's the most racist thing ever. Because I was talking to one of these progressives, and I've said in the past, yes, I worked with them. And to talk to them up close that's when you realize, like, oh, this shit is racist. Because it was never about helping black people, right? It was about, or even, and I don't like using black and poor interchangeably, but for these people, it was helping black people, specifically poor black people. And it wasn't because they just wanted to see us do great. They just thought we were too dumb to help ourselves. And I mean, they thought we were all in the same boat. Like, I remember having a conversation with one of these people he brought on, and she didn't know me from anybody, and she just made assumptions and leaps like, well, black people do this and black people. I'm like, are you white-splaining black people to me? Have I stopped being black in the middle of this conversation? It was some wild shit. I never seen anything like it. And it's like, oh, this explains the whole movement. They couldn't care less about helping people, specifically black people. They just think we're too dumb to help ourselves. So they want to throw some shit at it at the end. Well, he's had such a tough life. If you gave a shit about his life, then you would have stepped in and intervened when he was in first and second and third grade. But you wait till somebody's 16, living in the hood, having a rough go of it. They're broke as a joke. They're not good at school. They have no interest. We're so worried about the incels, which is, I think, involuntary celibate, because they're white. They're mostly white boys who are too afraid to talk to girls. They want a girlfriend, but they wind up hating girls because girls won't give them the time of day. We're so worried about them, but we don't seem to care at all about the young, black, disenfranchised male. Because he's out here making babies he can't afford. He's out here, he's doing everything he can to imitate every rap record and every rap cliche he's ever seen. And nobody's talking about him. No one's feeling bad for him. I like this guy too, but I can't think of his name. I can see his face. But he just goes on and on about how bad we should feel for young white men. He doesn't say it specifically that way, but he's like, young men are struggling, young boys are struggling. But the reality is he's mostly talking about white men and white boys. Yeah, I agree. All boys are going through something. Absolutely. There is I don't know if it's a war on boyhood. I don't know what it is, but definitely boys are being manipulated and mistreated across the spectrum. And I think all boys should be an area of concern, because the death by violence for the young black inner city male is terrifying. Who are the girls supposed to mate with? I think that's part of the plan. They just don't want these kids to grow up and be a part of a community. They've got them used to thinking they might not live past 17, and they're okay with it. I think a big deal would be like, let's talk to some young black men and see if they ever see themselves as grandfathers. And certainly, I'm speaking in generalities about a certain demographic, mainly because I saw it over and over and over again. There are many, many, many people of color, black people, whatever you want to say, that they won't go to jail. That's not going to be their experience. They're going to grow up, they're going to live a pretty middle-class life, and they'll be okay. But there are a lot of lower income people who need to stay exactly where they are intellectually and physically so the prison industrial system can continue to work as it's designed. And I hate to say it, but it feels like everything's a scam. And the real people in charge are fine with it. They let us have our little middle class for about 40 years, and then they were like, fuck that. Let's get Reagan in there and destroy everything. And that's exactly where I think it all started. They decided to take their masks off. And then the demons came online by the 90s. And I guess they were probably in their 40s and 50s. These boomers probably. These boomer Rothschilds, like, they're on a whole nother level, and their ilk, they're on a whole nother level. They are demonic and heartless. They don't care. Uh, and I just feel like that's what's happening. I'm no psychic. I don't know for sure, but I definitely feel like some of this stuff has been in design for a long time, and the only way out is through. And you got to stop falling for it. You know, these, I get it. You're mad at Jay-Z because he says stop boycotting Target. I didn't stop boycott. I never boycotted Target. I don't live in a city where there are any alternatives. So, but that's not really, I'm sorry they just discontinued their DEI and all that, whatever. Um, but Jay-Z is a vulture. He does that. He did it in Brooklyn. He did it with the NFL. This dude does not care. He does not have a moral center. And basically, it's not boycotting Target that's going to make a difference. Boycott Christmas. Don't shop all of October through January and see what happens. Stop giving these huge corporations all of your money inexplicably. A lot of these companies only get in the black at Christmas time because they know you're going to spend all your money to be a part of it. And I got trolled for saying it on TikTok, but now I'm starting to think the bots didn't want me to say it because I was right. Because it would cripple a lot of these companies. Anyway, I've covered a lot of topics. And that's kind of a hot take, but not really. I really believe most of what I just said. And I mean, I can be wrong and I can change my mind because there was a time I never would have thought any of this was true. I just didn't think that level of evil was operating in the world, but now I've changed my mind. It's been I spent 7.5 years in a prosecutor's office, and I've seen some things, and I saw a lot of things up close. That ineptitude was on purpose. They picked someone who was inept and incompetent on purpose, and I'm sure his head explodes every time he thinks about me because I called it dead to rights. As soon as I met him, I was like, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. And I'm just feeling well enough to start writing about it. Threat assessment, green check mark. Have an amazing day. It's June 17th. Get on it. We're almost out of June. Time is flying. That doesn't mean you don't have to make plans, though. Take care of yourselves. Bye.